All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Kang Gang Pod, episode 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode today. We had fun editing it, just having a lot of people respond to it, showing us some love. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different for the second episode. We are actually going to interview the person to my left, the person that you see on your left, Mr. Christo's Closet. How are you doing, my man?
I am doing so good. I'm just so excited about the podcast. I love that we're doing this. We're going all in. We're going to be very consistent with it, and I'm just doing great.
Well, I'm excited too. Well, I'd say let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's
do it.
So, for those that don't know, you have a lot of King's vintage gear around your house, and you are one of the biggest King's collectors that is in the city. And my first question is to you: how did you get started with all this? What was like the first piece of information or the first piece of inspiration that you did where you're like, I want to do this as like King's vintage gear? What got you into vintage clothing?
That was an amazing question. It started when I was younger. I'll date us all the way back. So my dad, he was into buying and reselling clothing, and I remember when I was younger, he would always be buying us, my brother and I, like all these jerseys, and we're like, where are you getting these from? And then we never really knew. He would just always get all these jerseys. He wasn't really telling us where he was getting them from. But then eventually, I remember he would bring us into the thrift stores after picking us up from school. And my brother and I, we hated going. We hated getting tagged along. It's so funny now because like I'm in the thrift stores every single day, but we hated it. Like I remember vividly, like I did not want to be seen there because at the time, like thrifting wasn't cool. Like as a young kid, you don't want to be known as the kid that's wearing used clothing. But I mean, fast forward to now, that's what everyone wears now. But as a kid, I was very like self-conscious about that. So I never wanted to be even seen by like any kids at school or anything like that. So it really started from there, just being kind of like dragged along, going into these stores. And then my dad, when I was in college, it took all the way until then for me to start doing it because I was working at the rec center at Cal State Fullerton. I was a basketball referee. So I was reffing basketball. I was a student, and that was not enough money at the time. So my dad was like, you should get into it. Like, it's time. It's time.
And that's the best. That's like passive income in a way because that like allows you to just have more money. And plus it's like you find like really, really cool stuff that you can really use to your advantage. What would you say is like the rarest piece that you found?
Rarest piece. My gosh. I mean, off the top of my head, I would say I found, well, this is like recently, I found a super old, it's from the 80s, it's a chalk line varsity jacket with the King's embroidery on the back. It's super rare. I've only seen one of them, and I look for King stuff daily, and I found it on eBay from a guy up in Auburn. So we met up, and I got that, and I posted it on my Instagram a while back, and everyone was hounding my messages for it, and I'm sorry everyone, but that one is not for sale.
Not for sale. Would you say that is like considered to be like your most valuable piece that you've bought in so far, or is there others where you're just like, I just want to keep this like forever and ever and ever, where to the point where it's like if you pass away, I'm like, I'm still holding on to it?
To be honest, TZ, every single item I want to keep. Truly, I do, but you know, the way I've like built the brand is I like to do timely drops. So like on my Instagram, like for example, like right before this season, I'm gearing up to drop close to like 75 items for sale. So I do have some stuff that will never hit the market, and I do have some stuff that I've kept for a long time. I've had my enjoyment with them, and you know, these items are not meant for me to just gatekeep. They're meant for the Kings fans to get to get a hold of them at some point when I'm ready to give them up.
Yeah, well, that actually kind of leads me into my next question. Actually, you run this clothing company through social media, And as you know, during this recording, this is September 8th today. Yes, September 8th. You have about 9,200 followers, which is a lot. And one of which is just based on just working and just providing content. So how do you focus your content around clothing, especially when you're posting on social media and Instagram? What are some things that you focus on the content relation to provide Kings fans with your content?
So, well, the first thing that jumped out to me was that number you said. It's crazy that there's that many people that are keeping up with the page, because it was never like that until the past 2 years or so. Because like back in college, I mean, I was only posting on Etsy. Like I was only posting my stuff literally like I find it and I was selling it. Like I was never like promoting it through social media at first. So it took some great ideas from my friend Jackie. So Jackie was the one that pushed me to make the Instagram. So because of her, Christo's Closet exists to the public, because that's how people find me now. It's through Instagram. And so when I first started posting on Instagram, it was just friends were following me. So all my friends in Fullerton, I remember, I'm pretty sure you probably followed me right when I made the account, and it was a slow buildup. I was trying to find ways, how do I like get my stuff to the most amount of people, and I wouldn't be where I am at now if it weren't for the friends that were backing me up and really supporting what I was doing. I would post something, they would repost it. So it just spread from there, from just my inner circle to their friends, to their friends, to their friends. And that's how it finally grew to a sort of like a business, you know? Like I never thought a hobby would ever turn into a business. And when I was doing it in college, it was strictly for fun, just to make a little extra money to go do some fun things while I was in college. But once I moved back to Sacramento in 2021, that's where things really took off.
Well, I think at the end of the day, like you said, like you did it for fun and then you turn it into a business. But I think what people don't really realize is that you are still doing this for fun. And that's like the whole concept of how business should be. Business should be, if you're doing something that you love, you know, that should be something that you have that's really fun. And I think that you embody that in a way that really helps a lot of other people be like, dang, this guy is like doing this. And, you know, just out here, just like, even though it looks like it's a hustle, it's actually fun for you. And that, like, you don't have to worry about like the stress that comes with it. Like that stuff does not like really pertain to that at all for you. So, and I think that really helps when you're just keep doing the things that you're doing. And I can't wait. So I was going to ask you, what are your plans for this upcoming season? What are some goals that you want to hit for the page? What are some things that you want to accomplish for this year as the Kings are preparing for a big season? I know you're preparing for a big season too. So what are some of your main goals that you have?
So before I answer your goals question, I wanted to say that, yeah, like it started as, you know, oh, like this will make me an extra dime here and there. But then I realized that I love it. Like I wake up every single day and I love what I do. I'm so like, I never would have thought that I would go get a 4-year college. Sorry, it took me 5 years to graduate. I never thought I would I used my degree on the side, but I would have never thought that this is what I would be doing full time. And like it's growing by the day. Each year I always look back, I always reflect on like where I was at the beginning of the year and where I am at now, and like it's growing exponentially. So it's really awesome to see. But back like what you said, like I just truly enjoy it, and that's what makes me like so excited about this stuff, is because I love what I do. Goals for the year. So some personal goals I have is I just love like when I see the items that I have get into like the players' hands. So another goal would for me, a goal for me would be to get my shirts, jackets, any of my inventory to like any of the current players, like Malik Monk. Malik Monk is like a fashion icon. He just won GQ's most fashionable NBA player, and like I have some stuff that like I think he would really like. So like I would love to get my stuff to more players. Yeah, but that takes a lot of luck. honestly. I mean, I've gotten lucky in the past. I'm sure we'll talk about those highlights of mine. Like those were, I'm so lucky that those have happened. But like I want to continue to get my stuff to the players. I want to continue to make more designs for future T-shirt drops. I want to go all in on this podcast. I want to be pumping out episodes like weekly. I want like it to be more than just clothing. I want it to be like a community like we talked about in the previous episode, but I just want to build something huge for the fans of Sacramento, either if that's through clothing, through our podcast, just like local meetups. Like I have all these amazing ideas that I want to do. I want to do so many things for the community. I love doing ticket giveaways. I have season tickets, so I always like to give away at least one game a year. I want to do more clothing giveaways. I want to do a lot of different things to give back, and those are some goals that I want to accomplish this year. And also I want to just see I want to hit the 10K mark. I want to hit the 10K follower.
You got to.
That is a goal too. So I just want to keep growing, and just having so much fun doing it.
Well, there you go. Well, you actually mentioned that you've had some experiences giving T-shirts to players before in the past. One of which was the Domantas Sabonis. When he had 2020, you gave Sabonis his dad's T-shirt. Arvydas Sabonis. Did I say that correctly?
Arvydas.
Arvydas. Okay, cool. That's
Arvydas.
One of the two. Well, if there's, we'll look after this. But would you say that giving that T-shirt to Domantas Sabonis was like a huge part of just like breaking through and being like, oh my gosh, this like video blew up because of this? Would you say that's like the first time that you saw like people really just like, wow, this guy is really blowing up?
1,000%. I had to like try. I was thinking of the timeline of everything. I believe that was the first player that I got to I gave him that shirt. So that was like the first time that I was able to get in contact with the player and do that video with the Kings social team. I'll get into how that all happened in a second, but the only reason why the Sabonis thing happened was because of the Tyrese Halliburton trade. So I remember I was at work when the Tyrese Halliburton news broke during free agency that year. Not free agency, during the trade deadline that year. And I was devastated. I was completely devastated because Tyrese Halliburton was actually the first NBA player to message me on Instagram. So we were messaging back and forth for months, trying to figure out a time to meet up. He wanted a vintage Bobby Jackson tee that I had, and like
step back Bobby Jack.
Step back. He really wanted it, and it makes sense because like at the time Bobby was a part of the staff, and like they were really close. So, and at the time Tyrese was repping the Kings hard. So like I had pretty much everything that he could have wanted at the time. So it only made sense that he would eventually get something from me. So we were going back and forth to find a time to meet up, and then he gets traded. So it was devastating, but from that moment on, like that's where the breakthrough happened because right when we got Sabonis, I had a friend on Instagram named Joel, and he had the Arvydas shirt. And I said, hey, I have this idea. Sabonis just got traded here. Like, I need to find a way to get this shirt to him. So we worked out a deal. I got the T-shirt from him, and then I reached out to the Kings social team to try and like facilitate this meetup. So shouts out to Kenny from King Social. He helped organize.
Shout out Kenny.
Kenny came through, and he really made that happen. So right before the game, I got to the arena about 3 hours early when he was doing his pregame shoot around. So we get to the arena. We kind of talk about like it may happen, it may not happen. We're just gonna play by ear and we'll try our best. We walk down to the tunnel area and we're just hanging out down there. Kenny is using his credentials to show that we're trying to make some footage for the Kings social for Instagram and everything. And then we see Sabonis on the opposite end of the court warming up. He finishes and he comes on over, and then Kenny waves him over, and then that's where that moment happens. So I gave him the shirt of his dad. It was perfect timing because I believe like the week before he announced that he was having his first kid. So it was like kind of like a full circle moment. Like he is becoming a father, and now I'm giving him a shirt of his father. So I thought that was very, like, it was great timing, honestly. Like, but then the Chris Webber shirt that I gave him too was because of that incredible stat line that only him and Chris Webber have done in a Sacramento Kings uniform. So that was definitely the breakthrough. And then from that moment on, that's where I got to meet everyone else.
So let's talk about some of the people that you've met outside of Sabonis. What were some of your favorite interactions with celebrities that you've met after you met Sabonis? So give me a list of all of those that you've met during that time.
Okay, so the list post Sabonis meetup was Davion Mitchell, Jason Williams, Mike Bibby. Let's see, Diplo.
That's a cool one.
Diplo, Dylan Francis, Hassan Minhaj. That one was the most recent one that happened last season. So my favorite interaction, I have two stories that I like, or I have a couple stories from those meetups.
Go for it. This is the interview right here. People want to know. The fans gotta know.
So I'll first talk about the most recent one, the Hassan Minhaj meetup. So that one, Hassan was in Vancouver for on tour. And there is a vintage shop that is in Vancouver, and Hassan walked in, and he was looking for, some gear. And then the owner of the store reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to send Hassan your way because he's a Kings fan and he wants some stuff." And I told him, I was like, "Dude, like, thank you so much for this. Like, he's been on my list of like people I want to get merch to, and it fell into my lap." So I got in contact with him. Like, shortly after, I got a direct message from the man himself, and then he put me in contact with his assistant to help coordinate the meetup. He had a show at in downtown Sac the same night as the Kings versus Mavericks game.
Oh wow!
He had two shows, one at 7 p.m. and one at 10 p.m. I had tickets for the Mavericks game, so Maya and I went to the game. Right after, we hop on the scoots and go straight to the show. But earlier in the day, I meet up with the assistant, and I give her a container full of shirts that I think he would like, all in his size. So I drop it off to her at around like 5 o'clock, and then we go to the game. We hop on the scoots, meet him at the show. We watch the show. He offered to give us free tickets, but I already bought tickets to see him because we were very excited.
You gotta support the entertainers. Gotta support them.
Of course, but it was just so nice that he was willing to give us free tickets to the show. But after, she comes on over and brings us backstage, and we were just hanging out backstage, waiting for him to do like his little say hi to everyone, his local friends, I'm sure, from Sacramento, were all there. So he was going around saying hi to everyone, and then he comes over to me and Maya, and we got to hang out with him, talk to him for a little bit, and then we got invited to go hang out in his dressing room for a little bit, and then that's where I got to take the photo of him with the shirts that he wanted, and then I said the price that I wanted for the shirts over text with the assistant, and then I got sent more money than I asked because Hassan was just a class act. He's like, his show, first and foremost, was amazing. I think it's going to pop out on Netflix soon. And then, but he's just such a nice guy. So I think that was probably one of the nicest celebrities that I got the chance of meeting.
That's like a really cool story.
Yeah. Really,
really cool story. How was the show though?
Oh my God, he is hilarious. Like, he is so funny. His stage presence, his storytelling is so funny. It was, something I'll never forget for sure.
That's amazing. So, you talked about meeting some of the other Kings players like Jason Williams and Mike Bibby. How did those experiences compare differently to, seeing entertainers wear Kings outfits versus like players that were a part of the Kings franchise? How is that completely different from you seeing that as a perspective?
Yeah. So, I have two stories. I have the time I met Jason Williams and then the time that I met Mike Bibby. So Jason Williams, he was doing a kids camp at the old Arco Arena in the practice facility. He was doing it during Father's Day weekend, I believe, and someone from his team reached out to me and said that they wanted me to set up a booth at the camp, and I'm like, heck yeah! So I was thrilled, and I brought everything. I brought every single Kings item, but the way I decorated the booth was just only Jason Williams stuff, jerseys, vintage T-shirts hanging up on the booth. So that was a very cool experience. It was surreal seeing him up close. I was just watching him like go through the camp, and then right when the camp ended, he walks on over, and then he's just admiring like his stuff, which is just so cool to see. Like, I mean, we'll never know what that's like, seeing your jersey, seeing like T-shirts of your glory days. Like, I bet it was like a trip down memory lane for him. I also had I have like all these trinkets of Jason Williams too, and like he got to see all of those, and it was really cool for me to just see him like interact with his old, like his highlight reel in a form of clothing and trinkets. So, you know, it was very cool. He was super, super nice guy. And he signed a bunch of stuff for me, and we got a cool pic. So that was a cool story. And then Mike Bibby. So the way that one happened was he was doing a live taping of All the Smoke right before the playoffs started.
Shout out All the Smoke.
All the Smoke. We love that podcast. So it was really cool, not only to see Mike Bibby, but like Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. Like, that was crazy. So again, I did the same setup. I brought everything I have Kings related, but I set up the booth Mike Bibby related this time. So before the show, Mike Bibby is walking around, checking out everything. He stops by my booth, and then all these camera guys come up to him because I had the best backdrop for him possible. So like I had all his jerseys, all his T-shirts hung up, and I didn't really think about to ask him for anything to sign. I have a rubber ducky of Mike Bibby, and I really wanted.
Oh, no way.
All I was thinking about was getting him to hold the rubber duck, and I get a photo of him holding the duck. Like, that was more important to me than him signing anything that I have of him. But he was like, I think he had like a astonishment factor when he was seeing everything up close like that, because I'm sure, and this was before he became one of the announcers for us, so like it was like a build up, you know. Like, I'm sure like at that time he was probably like figuring out the deal that was going to bring him to be one of the announcers for us, but that was definitely a highlight that I'll never forget as well.
Well, that's cool. Well, shout out to Mike Bibby. We got the bobblehead right next to me. So that's right.
We got the 3-foot bobblehead.
The 3-foot bobblehead. 3-foot bobblehead.
I didn't have that at the time where I met him. Otherwise, I would have loved to see his reaction. He would have been like, it.
Oh, man.
How on earth does that even exist?
You got to bring it to the arena now that he has a job, so that way you could just be like, hey, Mike Bibby, I have your bobblehead. You want to sign it?
I don't think Golden One Center would allow me to bring in a 3-foot statue.
No, not
Mike
even
Bibby.
close. Oh, gosh. Well, yeah, those are all incredible stories. So there are some listeners out there that are like, oh, man, I love what this guy's doing. I want to like dive into what he's doing. If you have one big piece of advice that you would give to somebody that is trying to do what you are doing, what would you give that piece of advice for?
That is a really good question, because I was seeking advice when I first started, and I remember someone told, I just remember hearing that like you need to do something that like is your own lane. Like, don't be like anyone else, just like follow your own path. And when I first started building out the Christo's Closet page, I was posting pretty much everything that I saw other clothing accounts posting. So I saw all of these vintage like Disney shirts, other sports teams, movie promotion tees, cartoon T-shirts. Like, I saw all of these, so I was like, oh, like this is what's popular. Let me like look for this type of stuff. But once I had the realization that I need to create my own path, I had to think about what do I really enjoy. And I love the Sacramento Kings. So when I was living in Fullerton, California, I wasn't finding anything Sacramento Kings related. It took until I moved back, that's where like the all of my Kings inventory really started to build. I mean, I had some stuff from when I was younger, obviously, like all the bobbleheads, all the trinkets, all the plaques, all of that type of stuff I had, but the clothing I never had. So the biggest advice I would give is to create your own path, something that you truly enjoy, and just like stick to that niche. I mean, obviously, eventually that niche will widen naturally, like how it started off with clothes for me, and now we're sitting here talking about the Sacramento Kings in a podcast version. So, that is my biggest advice: is just create your own path, something that you truly enjoy, and if it's something you love, it's not going to feel like work. And I don't feel like anything that I do is work. It's crazy that I haven't clocked in to work in the past 2.5 years. It's crazy that something that started a hobby turned into a lifestyle.
And that's the most important part, man. That's it. So, if you have a player that you could give any piece of clothing to, besides Malik Monk, because you already pointed to him, so you can't say him. You can't cheat. Is there any other player on the Kings that you're like, man, I just want to give something clothing vintage-wise that you feel like that would really, really fit well?
On the current roster, I would probably say De'Aaron Fox, but when I dropped my we'll get into the T-shirt drop later, I'm sure, but when I came up with that shirt, it eventually got to him, which was great, but I know who. DeMar DeRozan and Keegan Murray. Because, okay, Keegan Murray, everyone knows, he's very simple. Everything that I have isn't really simple. So I think it would be so funny to see him in like a loud jacket or a crazy T-shirt. I think that would be so funny to see Keegan in. I would love that just for like the comedic factor. But also, I just really want to meet Keegan. Obviously, we're huge fans of Keegan Murray.
We are diehard fans of Keegan Murray, by the way.
Wait, fans of who?
Keegan Murray.
We had to say it eventually. God, we can't wait for the season to start. Yeah, so I would say Keegan Murray and DeMar DeRozan. I would love to give DeMar a welcome to Sacramento gift. Hopefully it does happen. Hopefully we're planting this seed and eventually it will happen. We'll look back on when we talked about it today, and hopefully sometime during the season or the seasons to come, it does happen.
And you will be the first people, by the way, to know this too, because this podcast is made for the fans. So, exactly. We are for the fans, and once that drops, you'll see it and be like, oh, this is what happened, and you'll see like kind of the background scenes of it too. Hopefully it works. So
I'm hoping it would be amazing.
Yeah, well, I guess my last question actually, this ties up perfectly. So you had one of your biggest shirt sales with the Mike Brown Coach of the Year and De'Aaron Fox Clutch of the Year shirts. How did those shirts come about? What was the process through it? And how did you feel before, during, and after?
Wow. So that was definitely another turning point in the trajectory of what I'm trying to accomplish here. So I always knew I wanted to eventually start branching out from just vintage clothing and Sacramento King stuff to creating my own designs. And that shirt wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the man that helped design it. I mean, he doesn't want to be named. He wanted to stay under the radar because he wanted it to just be about me, which just shows so much about how selfless he is. And like, he's a great guy, and he's very talented, and he does a lot of amazing things. I'm sure we'll have him on the podcast at some point. I would love to have him on, but so the t-shirt design came about. So obviously, I'm very well versed in vintage clothing, and back in like the early 2000s, these shirts that I was super drawn to were the big face t-shirts. So the Kings released a big face version of Chris Webber, Peja, and Mike Bibby, and it's just a big photo of the shirt, and it looks a little like it's like faded perfectly onto the shirt, and it just shows the player. So I wanted to replicate that style, and it came perfect timing when De'Aaron Fox won Clutch Player of the Year and Mike Brown won Coach of the Year. Both of those people, De'Aaron Fox and Mike Brown, they had iconic quotes that every single Kings fan knows about. So De'Aaron Fox, we were playing in Chicago when DeMar DeRozan was over there, and he hits the game winner, and he's walking back to the Kings bench and says, "I'm fucking nice." It was amazing. Like, it was so cool, and I knew that quote was going to be useful at some point. And then Mike Brown, I think it was preseason, right? Like, or training camp. Like, Mike Brown, like, he first got to Sacramento, and he's like, "I gotta like set the tone here." And what did he say?
He said, "Just turn the fucking Jets on."
So that is another iconic quote. So I've had these just like sitting in my head for a while, and then once they announced the awards, the clutch player of the year and the coach of the year, like, I knew that phrase needed to be on the shirt as well. So my friend, he created the design for me. He knew exactly what I was looking for in the shirt, and it came out perfect. And he helped me with picking out like the quality of the t-shirts. He helped me pick out the company that does all the screen printing. So like I'm like, that was a foreign language to me, and he helped me through everything. And he was just so gracious to do that, and he was a mentor with me through that process. And I released the shirts right when the playoffs started, and I did it as a pre-sale, and I let it sit for about 2 weeks, and I got a good amount of sales the first time. The second release was about a month or two later, because Davion Mitchell wore it on the team plane. So, oh wait, no, sorry, not 2 months. It was the following season he wore it. He wore it on the team plane, and the Sacramento Kings posted a photo of him wearing it. So everyone in the comments were like, "Where do I get that shirt? Where do I get that shirt? Where do I get that shirt?" So then it forced me to put the shirt out again. So then I put it out again, and then the sales like skyrocketed, because at that point Davion Mitchell was wearing it, and then everyone else wanted it. So those were the two initial releases I did, and I also got the shirt to Rashay Fox. She really wanted the shirts too, so I got
shout out Rashay.
She's the best. She's the best. So I got the shirts to her. So now the whole Fox family is rocking the shirts, which is so cool. And doing that was just it was such an exciting time, and people still ask me to re-release it. I mean, I can't. That happened so long ago when he won Coach of the Year and Fox won Clutch Player of the Year. But hopefully, this season, you guys will be getting your hands on some new merchandise. So,
well, if they win it again, I think you got to just change the numbers a little bit and just be like, change the design, and then you'll have like, oh, this would be kind of cool.
We could do like a revamped version if that were to happen.
A revamped version, yeah.
I have ideas just sitting in my head, and I'm just waiting for the right time to release them. I've been definitely that's another goal of mine. I want to, like we said earlier, I want to add more my own designs out there onto the market as well.
Well, do you have something that you want to share to the Kang Gang pod listeners?
I really want to tell you guys like the shirt idea that I have, but I don't want to put it out there just in case someone steals it, because it's like,
that's true.
It's another phrase that like, it's an iconic phrase that I love so much, and I know all the Kings fans know it. So I want to put that on a shirt at some point, but obviously I still need to like think about how exactly I want to design that shirt. But that one is in the works. And I just have so many ideas that are just sitting in the head, but it's just, I just got to go out there and do it.
Well, there you go. I think that's how you do it. You just put pen to paper, and then you just apply it, and then boom, it happens. Well, that is it for today. Thank you guys, everybody, for listening to this second episode of the Kang Gang Pod. Unfortunately, you are leaving for Europe, but we will be back. You will be back by the last week of preseason, correct?
Yes, I'm arriving back right when the preseason is wrapping up. Then that's when we really got to get our episodes cooking, because right now we're pre-recording some episodes because we want to like stack them up. We want them to be ready for when the season drops. So we just want to get 2 quick episodes out for the fans, and that's about it for today. So as always, thank you for being a member of
the Kang Gang Pod. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you guys are listening to this through whatever platform you guys do, subscribe there, and we'll see you guys next time.
We love you. Let's go, Kangs!
Go Kangs!